So what if the whole story the AI industry tells us about itself, this unstoppable race to a super intelligent future, is just that, a story? Today, we're going to deconstruct that very myth using a framework that calls the major players what they really are, the empires of AI. And we're kicking things off with this quote because it really cuts right to the heart of it. The source we're looking at argues that this narrative of an inevitable race towards superintelligence, well, it isn't just a vision. It's a carefully crafted myth, and it's one that serves a very specific and, very profitable purpose. Okay, so to really understand the empire, we have to start with the myth it's built on. And right at the center of that myth is this huge, almost sci-fi goal, creating something called artificial general intelligence, or AGI for short. AGI is basically pitched as the ultimate prize, an AI that's as smart or even smarter than a human. But here's the catch, and it's a really big one. The goalposts are always moving. I mean, think about it. We don't even have a scientific agreement on what human intelligence actually is, and that makes AGI a really convenient, constantly shifting target. And just how flexible is that target? Well, check this out. The sales pitch for AGI totally changes depending on who's listening. When talking to Congress, it's this world-saving tech that's going to cure cancer. For us, the consumers, it's just the best digital assistant you'll ever have. And for investors? Yep, it's a $100 billion cash machine. So the crucial point here is that this narrative, the one that's sometimes inspiring and sometimes kind of terrifying, it's not just a vision, it's a strategic tool. It's used to pull in billions in investment, recruit the smartest people, and really importantly, convince governments that trying to regulate them would be a huge mistake. And all of this myth-making serves a bigger purpose, building empires. That's really the central metaphor we're exploring here. This idea that these companies are acting less like tech startups and more like the massive empires of old, just building up their power on a global scale. Our source here lays out 4 key strategies that look a lot like how historical empires worked. You can think of this as the playbook for how they build and hold on to their power in the modern age. First up, resource acquisition. Just like old empires went out and claimed new lands, these companies are claiming vast digital territories. They're training their models on basically the entire internet's worth of data, art, and writing. And at the same time, they're doing these modern-day land grabs to build the absolutely enormous data centers their ambitions depend on. Second is labor exploitation. The source talks about this huge, hidden global workforce. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people, often in low-paid, really insecure jobs. Their job? To label data. It's tedious, but absolutely essential work that makes these sophisticated AI systems actually function. Third, they monopolize knowledge. They work really hard to position themselves as the only true experts, the only ones who can really be trusted with this powerful technology. And according to the source, they sometimes even censor or fire their own researchers who publish findings that might get in the way of their business goals. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly illustrates that final pillar, narrative control. The story they tell is always that they're the good empire, and they're in a desperate race against some evil empire, whether that's a rival company or another country. It's the perfect justification that says, you have to let us do this, because if you don't, a much worse fate is coming for all of us. Okay, so that's the blueprint for the empire. But let's move beyond the strategy. What's the real-world cost of all this? Because we're not talking about abstract problems. These are harms measured in power grids, water supplies, and human lives. Just get a load of this number. In some cases, a single data center is projected to use up to half, that's 50%, of the entire power demand of a major city. The energy footprint of this industry is it's staggering, and it's growing like crazy. And the costs go way beyond just electricity. These facilities are competing with local communities for fresh water, sometimes in places already hit hard by drought. The source points to one supercomputer in Memphis being powered by methane gas turbines, which pollutes the air of a nearby working-class community and drives up utility bills for everyone. The human cost also gets deeply personal. The source tells the story of laid-off professionals who now find themselves in the insecure data annotation industry, and they're literally training the AI models that are designed to automate their old jobs. It's a vicious cycle that just kind of breaks the whole idea of a career ladder. This really forces us to stop and ask a pretty fundamental question, doesn't it? Is this the future we actually want to build? A future where stable careers are replaced by these disconnected, insecure tasks that just serve to make those same careers obsolete? So, if that's the critique, what's the alternative? Well, the source is clear. We don't have to just accept this imperial model as the only way. The solution isn't to stop AI, but to fundamentally rethink how we build it and, more importantly, how we govern it. And here's a really powerful analogy to think about: rockets of AI versus bicycles of AI. Right now, the industry is obsessed with building rockets, these giant resource-guzzling models designed to do everything with tons of collateral damage. But we could be building bicycles, smaller, efficient, targeted AIs like AlphaFold, which solves specific, really hard problems like protein folding with way less negative impact. The goal completely shifts from replacing humans to augmenting them. So the crucial point then isn't about being anti-technology, not at all. It's about being anti-empire. It's a call to challenge this huge concentration of power and instead build an AI ecosystem that's more democratic, more sustainable, and that actually benefits everyone, not just a handful of companies. And the cool thing is, this is already happening from the ground up. Our source points to artists and writers suing for copyright infringement, communities organizing against new data centers, and a growing public demand for real regulation. These are all ways of creating friction that challenge that imperial agenda. Which leaves us with this one final thought. These empires are built on the assumption that their path is unstoppable. Their massive revenue targets and development plans all depend on everything going smoothly, without a hitch. But the source suggests that we, the public, have the agency to decide if it does. So the real question is, what if we choose a different path? What if we just don't let them?